Eyeballs come first. This is a D20NN News Break.
Online, he is known as Deej. You may know him as the Dungeon Master from the actual play series Holding Action, or you may have liked a Twitter post that went viral among the D&D community this past month. He is making stat sheets for everyone. Well, it's a daunting task, especially when over 1,500 people liked the post. We checked in with him last week to see how the stat of the stats is. All right, so I want to kick off by talking about the stat sheets. What possessed you to start offering stat sheets?
I homebrew all of the stuff that I DM in house for our show, and it's something that I've done a lot and have a lot of practice in, I guess you could say. We also have a in-house template that makes it a little bit more efficient than trying to do it sort of manually, I guess you could say. So it was something that I'd already been doing a lot in a lot of instances for a lot of different reasons. And I had seen someone did a post, do a comment reply kind of situation or whatever else, and I will tell you what I think about you just from your bio alone. And I thought that was kind of fun. And normally I don't actually participate those kinds of things, and I didn't in this instance either, just because, you know, if I wanted someone else's opinion of me, I have plenty of bad ones to choose from just, you know, within the immediate surroundings. But I was like, you know what, this would be real fun. Let me knock out these stat blocks for people based on the heroes or villains that they would be, and it kind of just emerged from really just stuff I was already doing.
So how much personalization is going into this? Because you don't know many of these people on a personal level. How are you deciding what they're going to end up being?
I actually, of all the questions that I get DMs or ats or whatever for, that's probably the most common one. And I don't know if I have like a clean answer for you. And that's, I think, maybe kind of the process of like trying to define art is it doesn't have like the cleanest mechanics. But that being said, I think I look into what their interests are, who they are as people, the things that they jive with, where they prioritize themselves, the word choice in their bio, how they structure their own descriptions of themselves. And then I sort of plug that into how I see that playing out in the coolest way if they were a character in a campaign. So typically speaking, parents, especially, I've noticed the trend, parents will have, oh, my kid did this, and oh, I'm exhausted. And this is like, yeah, you're a parent, like you're just exhausted. Apparently that's just what parents are all the time. And as a result, I've noticed one of the funny trends is anybody who readily identifies as a parent, their con ends up being pretty high. I've come across in my circle actually revealed to me what spoonies are, or spoon theory. People who live in chronic pain and whatever else, and they end up having a lot of strength in con based on the information they sort of identify themselves with. So a lot of what I try to do is figure out the very essence of how people see themselves, and then kind of turn that into some fantastic idea with stats to match.
So it takes a little bit of investigation going into their timeline and anything else they offer up on their profile.
Yeah. Some a lot more than others. I won't do them anymore, but I've done 2 stat blocks for people that had no profile information. Like their bio was like they didn't have a bio. And now if I see that, I'm just like, nope, you're still in line, but you're totally at the end of it again now. Just I can't, because the research required to kind of figure out who those people are, and even then, obviously, I'm never going to nail it 100%. But
especially because
even then, it's like a huge sort of Sisyphean process.
Especially because you're not charging anyone for this. You don't have the time to sit down and compile an ancestry profile.
Right. Yeah, that's part of it.
So why aren't you charging for this?
Well, I have things that I do charge for. If it's a matter of making money, I've been fortunate enough where I'm not. I don't want to say hurting for money. I'm certainly not well off, but I don't need the money, and I think it's a great community builder. And one of the things that I think is really cool about it, especially like the community that we built around our show and the people who are there for some of our more core content or the content we identify with more readily, is those people have become friends too. And I've already seen it. Even just today, there's a lot of amazing sort of connections being forged. And on occasion, I'm blessed to be at the center of that. And for me, it was really more about a community-oriented project, whereas like you could charge people $1,000 to create a painting, but as part of like a community center, doing the wall mural for free with the community kids is its own kind of separate thing. So if people want to support me, there's avenues to do that. If people want to purchase things that I have created or that I'm part of, they can certainly do that. But this, to me, I don't want to say it like it wasn't about the money or kind of going to some weird, foppish whatever type of thing. But this for me is a really cool creative challenge, and people seem to connect through it. And for me, that's kind of where a lot of the value comes from.
It certainly got a lot of interest, because how many people as of this point have asked?
Well, let's see here. So the more recent one, because Twitter after like 2 months stops showing people the content for retweeted or quote retweets.
Right.
So I had to repost it because people weren't seeing the stuff anymore. But the first one was 983. And the most recent one, I'm doing this the hard way. Most recent one is up to 909. So I'm sure there's probably some overlap between people, but you're probably looking at, I don't know, maybe about 1,500 total.
Oof. And you're how far down the process?
My current goal this weekend is to be, by the end of this weekend, based on kind of what I've plotted for, I should be around 275.
And that leads us into the next thing: patience with this.
Yeah.
It was earlier.
Most people.
It was about last week. You got a message from someone asking, "When are you going to get to mine?"
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I've received 2 messages, one of which I posted, and this is on the tail of, I think, another one maybe a month and change ago that I posted that was basically, hey, when's mine going to get done? And then I looked into it, and I manage a ton of different lists, and I try to keep track of people a number of different ways. And it turns out that they had just retweeted it like 2 days ago. They had just followed me the day previous, and they were kind of curious why they hadn't gotten theirs yet. And I was like, I mean, you see the numbers, right? Like you know the maths. So what are we talking about here? And they, basically, I guess they thought that following me and being subjected to my shit posting was such an egregious Herculean feat that they could not bear the strain any longer. And basically they're like, well, why am I unfollowing then? I've had people say like I'm swindling people and things of that sort too, because I'm not immediately delivering when they put the criteria under their umbrella or whatever the case might be. So some people definitely are a little bit more purposefully offensive. Some people are a little bit more subtle and kind of ask under the guise of like, I'm super excited. And it's like, I dig that. I really do. I appreciate that. A lot of people are, like, I'm doing my best. I promise I'll get there. And then I just kind of have to move on with my day. So there's been a few standouts in that regard, but it's been pretty good overall.
You save screenshots such as the one that we're talking about in a folder, and what was the purpose of that?
Yeah. Super easy to be reactive and whatever else. And a lot of times I'll screenshot it and I'll sit with it just because I don't want to have Twitter up or open at the time or whatever the case might be. And I'll just come back to it 8 hours later and sort of digesting the mentality behind it. And maybe that's, why I'm inclined to do the stat blocks in the first place. Other than, I think, saying that following me is so painful for them that they can't bear it another moment, I don't think anyone's been particularly offensive per se. I think people are easy to get excited about things that are good for them. I think it's easy for people to get excited about things that are exciting, that center around them. And I could definitely see why people would have a certain zeal in wanting to sort of have that enacted. And I get that. And I think for them to express that in a way that is kind of inherently negative, yeah, that's not the ideal. But I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I think the healthiest way that I can do that for them, that's also healthy for me, is not immediately reacting. Even if it's good, even if it's bad, I think about a lot of the compliments and stuff I receive late at night when I'm trying to go to bed more than I do when I read them online, or people who are going to acknowledge my work or tell me how great something is. That's the kind of stuff that I like to sit with in the same way that I like to sit with the negative stuff, not because I want to hang on to it or sort of marinate in that, as much as I want to make sure I'm understanding how I want to react to it before I decide to.
Let's talk about goals. What is your ultimate goal? Do you have your sights set on being a prolific member of this community, like on the level of Devin Rue or Critical Role Cast?
I think the easiest answer is yes. I do anticipate or aim for being kind of, I guess you could say, towards the upper echelon. That being said, I have kind of my own roadmap for where I kind of want it to go and what I'm hoping to execute on. It's kind of a grand, wild scheme, and I think everything sounds a little stupid when it hasn't been done before. But I think Critical Role is Critical Role, and there will never be another stream that meets that level ever again. I think D&D and tabletop gameplay being streamed will fall off before anyone ever reaches that level again. Devin Rue is very much like a figurehead and a face for the community in many ways, and obviously well respected and extremely talented. But she is kind of one of those very much dyed-in-the-wool creators. She is uniquely skilled, highly sought after for very obvious reasons, but she doesn't necessarily put herself as part of her product. Her product is her skills and her talents, not necessarily the personality that is Devin Rue. And my goal, if you want to call it that, is kind of aiming between those two. And I guess to put it as shortly as possible, I actually have some plans that I'm going to try to continue to develop that I think might change the way that TTRPGs are streamed forever.
So once you finish,
Yep.
these 1,500 stat blocks, what's your next little project? Are you going to do something of this nature again?
I'm very much a chronic workaholic, overdoer, bite off more than you can chew and figure out a way to choke it down kind of guy. My main issue right now is I don't want to sacrifice quality to do that. So I honestly think once I hit a certain threshold for the current project, it'll likely decrease in its intensity and volume, but will probably just be a persistent thing. And I actually, if we're going to extrapolate it out into this idea of me being kind of a bigger success in a more long-term kind of perspective, I think, what if Matthew Mercer kind of caught his break doing exactly what I'm doing, yet at his level now, he still put out one a week for someone who was just there to support and whatever else. I think that would be almost even more. But I don't necessarily have the intention of stopping as much as I feel like it's just not something I'll be able to keep up at this pace forever, unless I significantly diminish the quality, and that's not really something I'm prepared to do. So I'm going to ride this one till the wheels fall off. And in the meantime, I have 2 more big projects that I'm going to be working on, both in the vein of content creation, brand new IP, gameplay that I think will be familiar to a lot of the mass market, but I also think will basically be a very small building block into that much larger design that I was talking to you about. And that is where I'm not just hoping to aim for a specific spot. I kind of have to build the pathway there because nobody's done it before. So it's going to be a process, but I'm all about the huge projects. And right now, running the show has been amazing and great and successful and hugely rewarding. People seem to be responding positively to the stuff that I've made and put out. And I'm just going to keep doing that and hopefully releasing bigger and bigger stuff until someone calls me a crazy man and they lock me up somewhere, I guess.
To wrap up, where can we see you? Where can we hear you?
I DM every single Friday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for Holding Action. It is a live 5e show. But beyond that, I think we have a lot of effort, time, heart and soul, blood, sweat dedicated to it. We've got a lot of great talent there, a lot of great people surrounding and supporting us, and we're actually starting to build a really cool community. So I can be found every Friday night, Twitch, www.twitch.tv. Don't even fill out the rest because it's just holdingaction.com. You can go there and find me every Friday night at 7 p.m. I have a couple cameo games that are coming up that I can't plug because they're actually still secret, but there's a lot of great streams. Go check people out, especially the people that are following me and that I follow, because you can find me there sometimes too.
Deej, this has been fun. Thank you so much for joining us and telling us about yourself.
You have been both a gent and a pleasure.
Thank you so much.